Welcome back to another explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to be here with you today because we're going to be looking at one of the darkest, most intense, and literally just undeniably brilliant tactical deceptions in all of fantasy lore. We are breaking down the absolute culmination of the third trial from the 47th Chronicle of the Gnoll's Bane. It's this gritty, incredibly high-stakes battle for survival in the deep, dark depths of Irondale. But as we're about to uncover, this was never just a battle. It was an absolute masterpiece of misdirection.
Okay, let's dive right into this. I want you to just put yourself in this situation. Imagine the sheer breathtaking chaos of being locked in mortal combat. You've just been thrown across a forest floor by this towering ancient Trent. You are literally fighting for your life in an enemy arena. And then, suddenly, over the roaring screams of a bloodthirsty crowd, your giant monstrous opponent just stops, looks right at you, and speaks this exact phrase. And he doesn't just speak it in some random language, right? He speaks it in the ancient, sacred Druidic tongue. It is one of those moments that just completely shatters your expectations. But to really understand how we even got to this crazy plot twist, we've got to look at the environment where all of this is going down.
So picture the absolute sensory shock of this contrast here. Up until this moment, the young Druid Cedric had been waking up in these dark, freezing cold stone cells beneath Irondale, right? He was escorted by Durog guards through these winding, miserable halls, entirely expecting to step out onto your traditional, blood-stained Colosseum sands. But the mages of Irondale, well, they did something completely unexpected. They magically transformed the entire arena. As Cedric stepped out, that bare stone was just gone. Instead, these towering trees stretched all the way toward the open sky, ancient trunks, thick undergrowth covering the ground. It was literally as if a lush, thriving woodland had been entirely uprooted and just planted right within the walls of a Durog death trap. For a brief, really surreal moment, it almost felt like home to him. It is just such a jarring juxtaposition, you know? Now, while the massive Durog crowd is just thundering with anticipation all around this magically created forest, Cedric, he barely even hears them. His eyes are drawn upward. He's scanning these endless rows of hostile spectators until his gaze lands right on the general's viewing box. And there he sees it, the face of Talinor, the ranger, just standing there among the enemy commanders of Uzgul, watching silently from this high balcony. Now, seeing an ally tucked away in the enemy box, yeah, that's startling enough. But what Cedric spots next, oh man, it changes absolutely everything.
Now, what's really interesting about this is who is resting right there in the center of the grand balcony, sitting directly in the High General's chair. It's Henrik Featherstep. We're not just talking about the leader of the Emerald Druid Circle here. This is Cedric's father. This is the very man whose mysterious disappearance launched this entire, seemingly impossible journey in the first place. So suddenly finding him here, sitting right alongside the Durog commanders in the very heart of Iredale, it is an absolute psychological sledgehammer.
To really wrap our heads around the massive emotional weight of this freezing realization, let's just trace the timeline of Cedric's journey really quick. 3.5 months have passed since Cedric first left his home. 7 whole months since this entire journey began around the table. Every single mountain they climbed, every vicious monster they slayed, every brutal hardship endured by the Gnoll's Bane, it literally all led to this exact moment, finding his father on that throne. Cedric's breath is entirely caught in his throat. The stakes have never been higher. And for just a split second, Cedric completely forgets he is standing right in the middle of a gladiatorial arena. And let me tell you, in the arena, a split second of distraction is all it takes. Boom! Right behind him, the forest literally explodes. A colossal Trent bursts from the trees, and its massive, thick, branch-like fists crash into Cedric with this overwhelming force. He is hurled violently through the air, just tumbling across the rough forest floor. And that sheer physical trauma, it snaps him right back to reality. Knowing he absolutely cannot survive another hit from a giant like this in his natural form, Cedric instantly calls upon his magic. Right before the crowd's eyes, his body twists, it expands, and he transforms into a massive, mighty Allosaurus. So the great dinosaur roars. The Trent answers. And then we arrive right back at that incredible twist. The Trent speaks in Druidic. "Forgive me, my friend, but I must right the wrong these evil beings have done to you." You see, the Trent didn't see a fellow prisoner competing in a trial. Because Cedric transformed into a dinosaur to survive the ambush, the Trent looked at him and just assumed he was another wild beast. Just another enslaved monster victimized by the Durog.
And wow, this is where Cedric's quick thinking really shines. Notice his rapid response. Right in plain sight of thousands of screaming enemies, Cedric totally flips the script. He answers back to the Trent, saying, "I am no servant of theirs. We are captives. We fight because we are forced." In the span of just a few frantic seconds, he uses the enemy's own language barrier completely against them to establish this covert channel of communication with his own executioner. The ancient guardian actually hesitates, realizing its mistake. It mentions that there are other guardians imprisoned within the mountain. And Cedric, he seizes this tiny, fleeting window. He asks the ultimate question. "If I help free them, will you fight beside us?" This right here, this is the exact pivotal moment this explainer goes from a gritty survival story straight into a high-stakes heist and a full-blown rebellion. The Trent's answer comes without a single second of hesitation. We will. Think about that. A massive, secret alliance has just been forged right under the noses of the Duergar generals, literally right under the nose of Cedric's own father. But, forming an alliance is one thing. Actually surviving the next 10 minutes? That is entirely another. And this brilliantly illustrates the terrifying tightrope they now have to walk. It's the stark difference between reality and illusion. The reality is they are co-conspirators planning to overthrow their captors. But the illusion they absolutely have to maintain? A brutal, flawless deathmatch for a roaring audience. Because if either of them reveals the truth, or, say, holds back too much and exposes the lie, well, they're surrounded by thousands of watching eyes. Both of them would surely be executed right then and there on the spot. So what do? The Druid and the Treant become actors in what the Chronicle describes as less of a battle and more of a masterpiece. They put on a staged performance of truly epic proportions. The towering Allosaurus and the ancient guardian clash through the forest with such visceral, gritty precision that no soul in that arena suspects a single thing. I mean, trees are splintered. The earth literally shakes beneath their thunderous footsteps. Every single strike looks brutally genuine, while every counterattack is perfectly measured to ensure neither is actually killed. It is so flawless, so incredibly convincing, that the entire bloodthirsty Duergar audience rises to its feet. But a fight to the death has to have a victor, right? Eventually, they have to deliver the final act, and they orchestrate it just brilliantly. With all the terrifying force of an ancient giant, the Trent drives one mighty foot directly into Cedric's chest, launching the massive Allosaurus backward into the trunk of an enormous tree. The sheer physical impact of the blow completely shatters Cedric's magical transformation. He reverts right back to his true human form. And we gotta keep in mind, even though this fight was quote-unquote staged, the physical toll on his body is incredibly real. Cedric is left bruised, bloodied, and barely able to stand on his own 2 feet. He has taken a massive beating just to sell this illusion. Slowly, painfully, Cedric rises. And the atmospheric shift here is just purely cinematic. He raises one single trembling fist toward the open sky above the forest arena. Dark storm clouds immediately begin to gather overhead. Divine magic answers his call, and with one final desperate charge, Cedric sprints directly toward the Treant. We wait. The crowd holds its breath. The entire arena goes completely silent, and then the bolt descended. A blinding pillar of divine lightning completely engulfs both the Druid and the ancient guardian. The flash fills the entire arena. And when that brilliant light finally fades, as the thick smoke clears, neither combatant remains standing.
So, the crucial point is what happens next in the aftermath. The arena completely erupts in chaos. The Duergar soldiers rush into the magical forest, grabbing Cedric's unconscious body and dragging him toward the infirmary beneath the Colosseum. But as Cedric's vision fades to black, he catches one final, vital glimpse. The Treant is also being carried away by the guards, alive. They both survived the explosive finale, exactly as they had secretly planned.
By suffering through the intense physical trauma and utilizing just flawless magical timing, Cedric and the Treant pulled off the ultimate heist. They used the enemy's own brutal entertainment system right in front of the enemy commanders to secure a massive, powerful ally for the wars to come. Deep beneath the mountain of Irondale, in the darkest of cells, hope had quietly taken root. It's an absolutely fascinating display of quick thinking and survival, which leaves us with this final thought for today's explainer. If you were forced to perform in a deadly arena, under immense physical trauma, could you mastermind a deception this flawless in front of thousands of bloodthirsty enemies, including your own father? Think about the sheer willpower that takes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.